oftentimes you see a company that has really good features, really good pricing, seems to have good support, and yet they're not closing deals. And you sometimes ask yourself, why? This is a challenge that almost every B2B marketer is up against today. The problem is that the market is really saturated. There is almost an infinite number of choices. Now, we might look at it and we might say to ourselves, yeah, but a lot of those choices that are out there are not really good. I mean, you look at your product, I look at my product, we all see the good side of it, we see the benefits, we see what makes it stand out compared to others. But from the point of view of the buyer, essentially everything looks pretty much the same. And the more you look at products, right, they start to blur together almost. You don't really see the differences, the nuances as much. In a sense, you get what they call buyer fatigue, right? You've gone through so much information. You've watched endless demos. You've read sell sheets. You've listened to sales pitches and watched decks. You're sort of burnt out on that. And what you really want is just to be able to make a good choice. Because ultimately, every buyer wants to make what they consider to be the right choice, a good choice, the smart choice. And that's really weighs on people regardless of what they're buying, not just when you're buying big systems for your company. You're looking really to be able to, even in a small purchase, make sure that you're making a smart purchase. And I think that's something that we can see played out really well in reviews, for example, on Amazon. Amazon's been brilliant about this. They were early to the game on this, putting those product reviews. Game-changing, despite the fact that when you find a product on Amazon, there is no end of information about that product. I mean, seriously, there's photos, millions of photos, endless amount of product specifications and details, and if you want, you can ask questions. But the game changer for people, as we all know, are the reviews. Because even if you're buying some inexpensive little household item, let's say like a vegetable peeler, right? Or some kind of cleaner for your eyeglasses or whatever, nothing that's a critical purchase. We want to read those reviews, right? There's so many products. Which one do we choose? We look to see, which one has a lot of stars, but we also look to see, what the reviews are saying. What are people talking about? Because you want to hear what somebody who is just like me has to say about this product. What was the experience like? And again, even for something simple, we want to do that. So you can see how when people are making big purchases, it's even more critical. And yet that's really, really hard to get. There aren't pages of reviews. Of course, it makes sense because you're not selling that volume of product. But mainly what you get when you're looking at companies, you're getting testimonials, which are very canned, right? It's more or less a press release with a statement from the company that signed the client, right, and the client. And they tend to be the same thing. We're super excited. Everyone's always super excited about working with this company, and the other one says the same thing, and it has no authenticity, let's be honest. It's the same again and again and again. Person reading that does not think that's anything special. It's not going to make them think, oh, this might be a good choice for me. So you have to be able to recreate that scenario because people want to know, they want to, in a sense, be a fly on the wall and listen to that behind the scenes conversation of what people are really saying, what they're experiencing, how they're using a particular product or service. So in order to do that, we thought to ourselves, how do we create that for our clients, right? For our marketing clients. And we thought about it and we said, I think that what we could do is use our podcast channel, A Seat at the Table, and create what we call a micro series that are a series of sponsored podcasts whereby the customer, right, our customer client, is able to bring on one of their customers. And we talk about what that customer is doing, right? So we first start out talking about the sponsor's customer. Tell us about your company. What makes your company special? They can talk about new products they've launched. They can talk about achievements, anything they want to talk about. The floor is theirs. Then we also talk about how they're using the sponsor's product. Again, they can share whatever they want. There's no obligation to share anything that they feel is confidential. Just talk about what you're doing, use case, experience with that product, why you chose it. Again, up to you what you share. And so we talk about that and we bring all of that together. It makes it interesting for the reader, it makes it interesting for the listener who's interested in that particular product or service and wants to learn more from the point of view of someone who's actually using it. It makes it very real because it's a conversation. It's not scripted, it's not polished up, it's not a PR angle. It's just really the sponsor, their customer, and then me acting as the moderator, and an honest conversation. And it really resonates with people. It's authentic because it's not done by AI, as we know nowadays. There's not a lot of trust when we see things in media because we're never sure how much of this is even real people doing it and how much of it's been written by AI. So here you have real people who you can recognize, right, oftentimes. And they're talking informally. It's almost like if you've gone to a conference, for example, our recent FashCon, where we had panels, and people absolutely loved those panels. We got really good feedback on that because they said we were able to listen to people who were openly and honestly sharing about what they're doing and some of the challenges they faced and their point of view on things and you know, their sort of approach. And people really loved that. So being able to take what people like and what people value, and that's very hard for people to get, and parlay that into this podcast series that can be sponsored is a big win. So if our success stories to sales micro series sounds like that's something that you might be interested in, you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to give you more information about how it works and so on. You can find a link in the show notes or in the description area, depends upon how you are listening to this particular episode. If you're interested in learning more about what's working in B2B marketing in today's competitive market, we've got plenty of other episodes and more coming. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jane Singer, and I will see you in the next episode.